favorite Screen Rant theory about Endgame was that they were going to completely skip over Tony and Steve's reunion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I was like,
Right, yeah.
You don't have a film. Like,
yeah.
That's they literally said it's going to be a big part of the movies. It's
It
going to
is.
be
And it was
a
awesome.
major point.
yeah. Screen Rant was like, we think it would be too much of a hindrance and it'll slow the movie down and it's going to cripple the story and then you just skip right over it.
I'm honestly
They did it in
surprised.
30 minutes.
That's why you guys write for a shitty website and not for Hollywood.
I'm honestly surprised we did not get some sort of allusion to the Ant-Man and Thanos' ass thing in some sort of way. With like the way
I
that
think it
these
was
guys
too-
make the movies. Like I was like surprised that there wasn't something about that.
Yeah, but that theory
I
didn't
think it
really
was too
pop
late.
up until much later. Like they had already finished most of the filming for this by the time
Right.
It would have
that
been
came out.
hilarious to reshoot if they were talking about battle strategy. And then he's just like, what if I do this? And they all just stare at him.
Well, no, I would have much rather had been someone say like, why wouldn't you just crawl on his ear or his nose?
And he's just like, oh, that is better.
Like, why would you subject yourself to that?
Because
Or-
the internet is
I
terrible.
got fucking sick and tired of that joke about a weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
It could lead to my, my one thing I was going to say is like, or it could have been Wasp. Because, a total SJW, total they have like the Superwoman team up because they're all these things and blah, blah, blah.
Oh God!
Let me tell you how many times I'm so glad this movie decided to just stick it in the face of these fucking these
assholes.
Yeah,
these fucking losers who get mad over whammons.
women. There's a woman in space.
There's a woman on the battlefield, and she's making me feel insecure.
Which is like I would say like one of my.
There's a scene of 12 women standing right next to each other. Fucking
Yep.
So good.
It was awesome, and they like that entire like combo battle was awesome. But like one of my favorite characters in this movie that has like probably the biggest journey I think is Nebula, which fits with the story. But, like,
Fuck yeah.
Her whole thing is like she literally kills the bad version of herself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's something like with this movie. Like I can say that I've never been a huge fan of Nebula in the other films. Like she's been decent, but I feel like she's always been kind of a one note character in all the films she's been in. But this one, they actually gave her some real depth.
Before we roll into like, by the way, if you're listening to this, and you're, this is a spoiler podcast for the most part. Like,
I'll find some sort of
game.
I'll find some sort of audio thing for you, Arlen. I literally had to tell like the teenagers and 6-year-old I watched it with, do not say anything until we are in a locked car. Don't say anything in the back. Don't say anything.
I already made it a point that I'm going to spend a lot of time this episode reacting to things you say and trying to say things without actually giving away specific details through the walls because I live with two people who still haven't seen it yet.
Oh God, how have we not seen it yet?
Opposing schedules and like luck of the draw, basically.
Although I do want to say, someone posted a thing about numbers on one of the groups, and the two teenagers I know said people were taking off of school on Friday to go see it because the only times to see it were during the day. By me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I think I saw it's like estimated 350 to 400 million this weekend.
Yeah.
It's already the fourth highest grossing film of 2019 in like 2 days.
Yeah, like 2 full days because they're
basically
like
it's made more than some movies make their entire life. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll share my fucking insane theater experience though because I did an impulse buy for just to see what was available. And it was 2 seats left, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll buy one of them." And I was wedged all the way against the wall, second row. I get to the showing, like theater's filling up. I walk in, there's a couple in my seat and the seat next to him, and I'm like, "Hey guys," I'm like, "You like, is this your seat? You guys just hanging out here?" And they show me their tickets, seat B19 and B18, theater 8. My ticket, theater 8, seat B19. I was like, this is a first. And I go outside, and I was like, I'll go talk to the usher. I'll go see what's going on because like I was already up, so I got up and walked outside. And within 2 minutes, I wanted to throttle every single AMC employee who was in reach of me because, like, I get it that this is probably not their fault, but handling it with a little more tact would have been a little more appreciative. Because I walk out to this usher, I was like, hey, there's a weird thing, like there's someone in my seat with the same seat number, and he goes, go to guest services. It's because third-party websites were crashing all day because everyone tried buying them at once. I'm like, yeah, that's how movie tickets work.
Yeah,
like people buy them on the internet at their leisure because that's why they're there. He sends me over to guest services, and like that dude is just taking forever. I didn't want to let it slip that I knew this dude because I worked at this same theater like 4 years ago, something like that. He's taking forever. There's several people in front of me. Everybody seemingly has the same problem. There's people in their fucking seat.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Right.
And I walk up to this guy, and I was like, hey, I walked up to the usher, told him the problem. I was like, I'm not really sure what to do about this. He then calls another usher, who then takes my ticket, and he says, go in the theater and talk to those people and see what their tickets say. I was like, I saw their tickets. They showed me their tickets. And he's like, well, we're going to go in there and have a look ourselves. I'm like, okay. So like either you're telling me I'm a liar or my word's not good enough, something like that. Walk past the same usher. He's having the same problem. He's sending people to guest services. As I'm walking back with another usher who is now taking me back to my theater, walk up to my seats. The couple's gone. I have no idea where they went.
Were they ever really there?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, when you went and talked to the one usher, it put you on a divergent timeline, and that's how you ended up. Yeah,
maybe they were from 2014.
Exactly.
Actually, no, that's funny because we had my wife and I and my 16-year-old had a similar experience. It wasn't us, but we saw somebody come in with their 3 kids and go over and be like, you're in our seats, and they're like, well, no, here's our tickets, and the woman's like, huh, okay. And we saw her go out into the hallway, and then she never came back. So I don't know if she went to the wrong screening or if they just gave her the wrong seats, and they probably gave her new tickets for another date.
I'm theorizing there's a combination of third-party websites not syncing with each other, and people showing up at the wrong times in the wrong, for different showings. So I think.
I also wouldn't be surprised if it's a case where like somebody was buying the exact seats that people were getting when they were buying them in advance at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and their communication just somehow broke down because I mean this movie was, God, it's already going to make $1 billion this weekend. Like,
or there's more than one like screen showing in a theater. I know my theater had 5 different options. So this one theater, there was
they're doing round clock showings. Like I think. Yes, 72-hour theater openings, basically.
Yeah, Regal I know has like, at least my Regal, there's a showing every half hour, I think.
Yeah, I have like every theater by me has like the IMAX, and they are all sold out like through like basically next week. I have both IMAX and IMAX 3D.
God, I can't. I can't. Go ahead.
On Thursday, I had at least 50 showings just at the AMC.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck me.
And I've told you guys this. I haven't told anybody else this. I went to a 2 a.m. showing and it was full.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how crazy this movie is. Like,
mine wasn't full, but like I said, my theater specifically had 5 different options.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that can roll into basically how we feel about it because it's completely justified that it sold out. This is an astounding piece of, I don't even want to call it pop cinema because it's a culmination of 11 years of film, and it pays off in every aspect.
I also want to say, like, this is like, for those people out there who are like, oh, it's just another fucking comic book movie. Like, we are so long past the point of that snooty, reductive tone. Like, this is a 3-hour, just
epic,
satisfying action film.
The other thing I was talking to my wife's cousin who I was going with his kids, and I was like, he's your age, Erik, and I was like, this is basically our generation's Return of the Jedi, but it's also, instead of 2 movies before this, it was like 20.
Yeah.
Like, there's like almost no way to explain what this is, because it's such a culmination of so many. Like, how old were you, Arlen, when Iron Man came out?
Oh, I was
11 years younger.
I had just turned like 15.
Yeah, there are legit people you're kind of close to it who have never who have grown up with these movies, like legitimately grown up.
Yeah,
you have become an adult with these movies.
I went through most of my 20s with these movies.
Yeah, same. Like this is like my entire kind of adultish life has been with these movies.
Oh, I was 30 when I saw
the MCU. The MCU single-handedly, I think, the combination of the MCU and the Dark Knight trilogy, injected comics back into my veins.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and it's kind of just, it's gotten better ever since. Like,
which is funny because
I would say this year is the first year since then where I'm like, man, fuck comics, but like that's mostly just directed like the big two, because I'm so.
Here's a crisis.
Well, because it's like the big two are just using that advantage and monopoly over the business to fuck with the audience or something.
Well, one of them knows how to handle the spinning goodwill into the other thing better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
It's not the one that I read.
Yeah.
It's I find I'll say it, since like DC needs to fucking get their shit together at this point. Like
I'm a DC fan. It's like, what happened to the hope and stuff?
Yeah, like
the only place it is like I think we talked about it in the last After Dark, was like those Wonder Comics is like the only place I see that. But those are also the ones made for kids. So
yeah, and like I'm saying this as someone who's wearing a Reverse Flash T-shirt. Like, I like Justice League is now such a fucking black eye.
Oh my god!
Did
they pass Justice League's total money on Thursday?
Like, I don't want to call it a bubble, but like an era of prominence. It is
forgotten.
There is no reason that DC and Warner Bros. Should not be enjoying the same level of success. Yeah. There's no reason at all.
Well, the reason is the old man executives.
They just fucked up.
Yeah, incompetency is really the reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call anybody out, but a friend, after somebody sort of gave their reaction to Endgame, they said, you know, I don't understand how Justice League happened, and this makes Justice League look like a joke. And their reaction was, you just couldn't not bring up Justice League. It's like, yeah, we can't not bring up Justice League. We can't not bring it up.
Exactly. No,
because,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like, we have this example of how to do it right, like that is almost perfect compared to this manhandled,
I think half manhandled is actually too much
matured thing.
It's underhandled is the problem. I think in many ways
it's like a baby that wasn't like it was like taken out.
You know, a dude to a man with a time machine, and it came out as a baby and pissed his pants.
It's not taken seriously.
Yeah,
people were in charge of it. The people in charge were like, "Who the fuck? This is easy. This is no problem. Who cares?"
Right.
Like, Batman's a license to print money. It doesn't matter how he's handled. I mean, it does.
Well, it is easy, and it is a license to print money. They just somehow did it wrong.
Yeah.
It's like they actually did the hardest thing possible.
Well, I feel like DC, and I don't want to turn this brief episode into what DC did wrong, but DC didn't have a clear vision on where they were going.
True.
And
their vision was this is all going to die.
And it's abundantly obvious that they didn't from the beginning. They could they claim they did, but just looking at even what they did put out, regardless of the turmoil that one director had to go through, there was no clear through line. And
also, that director, like the guy you picked to head your ship, was someone with a for this kind of experiment and this genre of film, you pick someone with a very morally questionable creative compass.
And also an art style that fits. Like, there are characters his art style completely fits with. One of them is Batman. I would have been perfectly fine with his Batman.
Yeah, and also all the Watchmen.
Yeah.
But they gave him the complete other end of the spectrum character to start with.
Yeah, you did Watchmen, so you can do all of DC, right? Which means all those characters with varying personalities and tones and whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, none of us would... It wouldn't have worked if Jon Favreau had been requested to direct all of these films.
No.
It wouldn't have worked.
No.
Like,
again,
it would. We would have. They would have failed at Thor. Like,
the thing is,
it would have fallen apart.
He is the guy that laid down the perfect foundation for what we got today.
He did.
Well, and
he was perfect for Iron Man. Like, he was perfect for that movie.
Yeah. Well, and he also fought for the perfect actor for the role. Anybody else playing that character, I don't think could have given us all of what we did. Like
it was almost fucking Tom Cruise.
Well, that was like way before. That was like 5 years before that. At some point.
Yeah, they did want somebody younger and hotter though. That's
But like he like literally at the time he was hired, like he was at the bottom of like it was, and it's like now we got to see his return with this character, and we got to grow with him and the character. Like he is Tony Stark.
Well, beyond even the groundwork that Jon Favreau did lay, and I mean I'm not discrediting that at all, but it's because Marvel and eventually Disney put their faith in Kevin. Like he is the reason. Yeah, he's the reason that this has done what it's done, and that is what no other studio has figured out with their films that are comic book adaptations.
Think about what we get every year. Which I can't remember what was the first time when it was like that room with the whiteboard and like their timeline they built out. Who else did that ever?
Yeah,
and that was
no
guy.
Really.
Well, other studios are too preoccupied with the idea of like. They're so willing to slash the throat of anybody they think is a stepping stone or a minor inconvenience. Like, to pivot back to Zack Snyder for a second. Like, granted, the choice for him being the right guy, the wrong guy is irrelevant when you kind of get down to the fact that like, you guys fired him after his daughter died.
Yeah.
Like, well,
you didn't
even painting it even nicer than what it really.
You didn't give a fuck about this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you fired him. You brought someone in to replace him to completely like ham fist his vision into something that it wasn't supposed to be. You dropped it. You formed it out in the middle of November, and then you all fucking left the company
after they've collected the bonuses.
Get fucked, every one of you. God. And like we have Amy Pascal, who has just no fucking idea of like I don't think she knows what day it is half the time.
Her days are recorded by the sandwiches she orders.
I agree with Arlen. I think the episode of that what was that podcast you had me listen to with John
Joe Lynch and Adam Green. Yes, the movie Crypt.
Yes,
but they were talking about an executive who like fell asleep during a pitch, and I was like, "That's Amy Pascal."
He even said he started with she, and then pivoted and said, "I won't say who they are," and then kept referring to him as they. But basically, like, we were in the middle of the pitch, and this executive drifted off, and you can't wake them up, or you'll get kicked off the property. He said, so we had to sit there and wait for this person to wake up, and they went and continue.
I would have taken.
He's like, we're still friends. Still friends. They work for Sony, and this person has only risen in the ranks. I was like, that's Amy Pascal.
Well, there's also a thing about like how hasn't Sony been wanting to like sell their film division for forever? Because I can't remember what I was listening to, and they were basically, I can't remember what movie it was, and they were talking about like how the Japanese basically saw Hollywood as like a money pit, like a hole just to throw money into, and they don't get hired at all.
Well, to steer back to Endgame, I don't know if it was me reaching, but the scene where Black Widow and Cap are talking, it's 5 years later, it's the first time we're seeing her. Yes, and she's like, I forget what exactly Cap said. She's like, "I will throw this sandwich at you." I can't guarantee that was because of her, but I'd like to believe the Russo brothers.
I did not even think about that. That's amazing.
I didn't even make that connection, but that's perfect.
That was
bringing up the Russo.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, no, continue.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was the one thing. Like the minute I saw that, I'm like, I need to remember that because that is, I will go to my grave believing that's why that scene happened the way it did.
I do. You brought up the Russo brothers, and that reminds me of another thing. Like Marvel Disney, also besides Favreau, got like a bunch of these kind of writer directors that were kind of not the hugest names. Like the Russo brothers made these two movies, and they made Cap. And they were the guys that did Arrested Development.
Yeah,
like what was their other?
They did Community too. I thought some episodes.
Like what was their big thing for Winter Soldier?
Yeah, their only movie before was You, Me, and Dupree. Everybody's favorite film.
What?
And then those two guys made the two of the greatest spectacle pop culture relevant movies of possibly all time.
I'll say the Marvel Disney machine has the ability to take someone like fucking Scott Derrickson, who's like, what did you do? I did Sinister and a movie with Aaron Eckhart that no one remembers.
And Hellraiser in Space.
I
need to look up every time we
Taika Waititi. Like, what was his big thing?
Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows, and what else did he do big before Thor?
Land of the Wilder People, or something along those lines. Yeah, that had Sam Neill.
Like, not a lot of big things.
No.
Like they've made a career out of betting on people who you wouldn't expect to be big, and sometimes those bets don't really play out all that well. You know, sometimes you get the director of Terminator Genesis directing Thor 2.
Or you have issues with the creative and it doesn't work out and you have to let them go. Like Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Which I do like a lot of Ant-Man, and I think it works. And I don't know if Edgar Wright was the right fit. And especially when stuff came out where he didn't like that, they're like, oh, you need to have this needs to fit into the rest of it, and he like didn't get it.
Yeah.
And the guy that they got to replace him, he's a really, capable director. He did a fine enough job.
The movie's not badly directed.
No, no, it's not.
Yeah, and there's something that he has that the Russo brothers also have, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up becoming a bigger deal later on in the Marvel movies, because there's a sequence, or there's a feeling of continuity from Ant-Man and the Wasp to this movie that is so great. The way that they pay off the exchange of Cap in this movie is so good, and it felt like, oh, this is like Ant-Man 1.5, like this little moment here.
Well, he's the other character that's in like a ton of this, which he is so good, and like every single thing, like it's like, oh, like Captain Steve America Rogers. That's America's butt.
That's America's ass.
Well, like, it's also having the guy, like that actor, Paul Rudd. Also having Paul Rudd is like a great icebreaker in these heavy. His comedic timing is so good.
Yeah, and which actually made like all the stuff where he comes out of the quantum realm, like just all that more soul crushing, because like he gets back. There was something in this movie that there was two things. It was covered in the support group scene with Steve, and then when Scott comes back, it's just the idea of like, what happened? Like, no one can process it. Still, it's 5 years later. Like Scott has, like, what happened here? This kid's only reaction is to look back and just.
I was gonna say, that is the best scene to show that. It's not even like the scene after that. It's that specific scene when the kid just like looks at him and is just like he's a living ghost.
Yep.
Which
that says more than any of the set dressing for that particular scene could do too, where you see like piles of trash and like houses dilapidated,
the boats and the cars.
Just like, you get the impression that there has been a severe breakdown in society in one way or another. But
it's very
having a little kid like almost cry because he can't even put into words how large it is. What
happened here? Oh like a couple billion people died. Bye.
And
then like at the support group meeting, like they just like there's that one. I think it was one of the Russo brothers, wasn't it?
I think that was actually. That's what I thought.
There's a conversation about how people in this time period, they just like, I was doing the dishes and then just cried. And like I was on dinner and I just cried. It's like that's
like a great
that fucking sucks.
it's a great mini version of The Leftovers.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because basically, that you could think of it like that's kind of what happened, which ties into like the greater, because what we are left with, that's not gone. Everything that happened, the 5 years of half of the population isn't gone. The basic absence of all government, like what we barely touched on, like the government side of everything across the world.
I was thinking about it because Sean asked me, we were bullshitting about it, he saw it, and he was like, so when Peter goes back to school, like, are all of his friends like 5 years older?
Yes, all of the ones that did not get dusted have already graduated high school and are in college.
Yeah.
Well,
if all those situations,
wait. But did they? Because could you conceivably get a school up and running within 2 to 5 years of this thing happening?
Yes.
Right.
I only say yes because I would say within 2 years. Because the thing is, none of the structures are gone.
2 years.
It is only people.
Yeah.
That is the
2 years, I would say, but even then, you still have people who have already graduated, who have already gone on with their lives, and then you have people like Peter and
his buddy
and all of his friends.
So from what we learned from that one shot, it's like his buddy also got dusted.
Yeah,
there's no reason for him to be there.
Yeah,
because
that's
him, Tony.
But that's the thing, though, because Ned reacts like he hasn't seen him.
Yeah, Ned reacts
still the same age.
Sure, alive.
But the thing is, that Ned, how long did that entire sequence take? And how long from the fight to when Peter goes back to high school is that time period? That could be a couple, that could be like a month. Because when we see him in the high school, he's not, he's regular. When in the battle, his face is fucking wrecked.
Yeah.
True. So like there is definitely a significant time there.
Right.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you also have to work with comic book logic, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm fine.
I do think that this was a great way for them to fix the insane chronological issues they've been facing with all these movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they can just, anything in the future, they can just say, well, something happened during the 5 years that is still having an effect.
I do want to pivot back to like a little more of a like chronological step of how this movie goes, because I think we really need to talk about the first 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. The opening, literally the I was sitting next to one of the teenagers, literally like hit me. He's like, that was heavy. That was a great opening. Like a 15-year-old teenager said that to me.
I am shocked that A, it worked so well, but B, that the Russos were just like, hey, you know how much of a down note Infinity War started on? We're doubling down on that for Endgame, you motherfuckers. Oh, yeah. Like,
but I think it was just like, oh, let's give you that. Like you were saying, like, let's show you the brutality of what this is.
Yeah. And it gives you an excuse to have Hawkeye get in there right away.
I love how they gave, like, all those people we really didn't get to in Endgame or in Infinity War, where you're like, oh, what are they doing? It's like, oh, they're all like the major look in this movie.
Well, Connor, what did you want to bring up about the first 15 minutes? Because you obviously wanted to bring something up.
How, within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever movie people thought they were going to get hits the floor in a bloody heap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
A dusty
heap.
Yeah.
Quite literally. No. I'm talking about when they get to the fucking farm. Because I was not prepared for any of what followed as soon as they got... Well, I was like, oh, we're going to do this right away. I was expecting to get there, and Thanos just fucking backhands everyone. It's like, you stupid humans. Like, will you not learn the first time? Yep. Instead, the first thing I see, I'm like, okay, he's still got, like, and like his arm's still jacked up. And then I'm like, there's a limp. I'm like, this is not... He didn't leave Earth the same way.
And he was burnt. He was crispy, too.
He had the strong arm from Scary Movie 2, okay? His arm was fucking destroyed.
He sticks his hand in
he had a hunt for an arm. And then, like, I'm like, this isn't a supervillain. This dude's a fucking dude this is a farmer now. This is a crippled farmer. This is not the Mad Titan. And then as I'm processing that, is it War Machine or Captain Marvel who fucking flies through his ceiling?
It's Captain Marvel who just fucking
shit out of him.
Yeah, she hurricanes him.
And then right away, Thor comes in and fucking cuts his arm off. I'm like,
no,
okay?
but beyond that, like it's Bruce in the Hulkbuster, like reaches up from the floor and grabs his one arm.
Captain Marvel has the right arm. Hulk grabs the left, and then somebody grabs him around the neck. Is it Cap?
No, Captain Marvel fucking chokes him.
Oh yeah, somebody grabs the right arm though. Is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's either Iron Man or no, Iron Man's not there. It's either Cap or Nebula grabs the other arm.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Be Rhodey. It could be Rhodey. But yeah, somebody fucking
Thor runs in and fucking just slices his fucking arm off.
Which
like it's at the end again. It's like you cut it. It's like whatever arm that was is like barely anything there. Mm-hmm. And then you get the full visage of like what and like he's just fucking scarred up and just he looks emaciated and pale and sickly and close to death. And then he basically he essentially looks at the audience and goes like, "Yeah, that second chance you're hoping for, I fucking flushed it down the toilet 2 days ago and it almost killed me. Fuck you."
Yeah. Just remind me of looking deathly and emaciated is before that, the Tony. Like I was like, "Oh my god, he looks like dead." Like they did whatever they did a great. Like he looks so frail. That's what they say. They've been in space for 22 days.
Yeah.
And the stuff with him and Nebula also, I was just like, oh,
oh my god. Okay, yeah, I want to pivot to that too because like the first shot after Clint and everybody is like them playing fucking table football.
Football, yeah.
He's like, "Wasn't that fun?" She's like, "I enjoyed that. Let's do another."
She won.
Yeah, well, and that was the beginning of me realizing like, oh, they're actually going to develop Nebula a bit here. I'm into this.
The shot of him like going to pass her with like the crumbs of the food, and she's like, "No." I was like, that's like a one little 2-second shot, and I'm like, that shows what's going on between these two.
Yeah,
and like the bottomless pit that they are in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad Karen Gillan actually got a chance to act in a movie.
Yep.
That was real nice.
Yep.
She hasn't had a lot of those.
No, she has not.
So
except for Oculus, your favorite movie.
Except for Oculus, everybody's favorite.
Film. Like, if you want to see some of the best like mine for good Karen Gillan material is the seasons of Doctor Who she's in. But as far as like big screen stuff, like she gets the fucking short on the stick all the time. I think she stuck around as Nebula so much because they're like, no, you're gonna do something huge.
Yeah, we have plans.
And that scene that she gets with War Machine later on when she's like when they're traveling and she's just like, I didn't always used to be like this, and he's like, same, but we live. Like, or he says something like, but we live and we move on and we keep going forward. I was like, ooh, that's a great like their pairings for that point. I was like, it's so perfectly balanced of like who is with who.
Almost like that's been a theme.
They gave him some good stuff. Yeah.
But like the quick jump to like Tony and also Tony's fucking fit.
So good.
Like, and I was like, this is what we needed to happen like right away because like, and it works so because like Tony's not standing on a hill of rationality or fairness. Like he's a fucking emotional wreck. And he's
been in space almost dead for 22 days.
22 days. Yeah. So like everything he says is taken with like a grain of salt of like he's not in his right fucking mind.
Is that when he says
like, but nothing he's saying is completely wrong either though. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, I know he could have the conversation could have been more civil, but it's also like I'm like I don't even know if he can blame you for any of this, but like but that one thing where he's like where Cap's like, I don't know what he's saying to you. He's like, I don't have any coordinates. I'm a planet. I have nothing for you. He's like, because where the fuck were you? And he just has an entire fucking mental breakdown like in that room.
Do address like I'm glad that they addressed like the vision thing, but I'm also glad it was just like, yeah, I saw this. I want to do all the things. Well, no, you guys said like blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and then what
the minute he said like, remember I had that plan to put a suit of armor around the world. Like I was like, oh, it's going to be this movie where they're going to be calling back to everything, and lo and behold, they did.
Well, they called back to that moment in Ultron where he's like, we'll fail, and he's like, and we'll do that together too, and he spits that right back in Cap's.
Oh yeah, so like he's like, what'd you say? We'll lose together too. He's like, and you did, good job.
There's a ton, like I love how we enter that kind of thing with Cap shaving, and then it ends with Tony being like, whatever, I need to shave. Like it was like
Mhm.
such
Also,
a weird
this is
thing.
the-
I was like, oh, but that's like a cool little
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Well, it just.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
also, like,
oh, go
a
ahead.
lot of people need to eat crow on Civil War. People who are like, Civil War didn't mean anything. It didn't matter at all.
Bullshit,
Fuck
because
you.
it's like
Fuck you.
If you think two people who were once you could consider best friends, effectively not speaking for the time between Civil War and Infinity War, and then also not speaking for what seems like 5 straight years,
Mm-hmm.
like that matters. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's off screen or not. That
Right.
fucking matters. You can see that,
Yeah.
and you also can see when they go back to Tony's house, where he has a fucking child.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like it takes time for these characters to like get okay with each other.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the
Well,
thing. It takes that 5 years.
to get-
Like, and so like if me and Connor say had a giant fight, right? And I sent him a letter, that doesn't mean that we're made up. That doesn't mean that we become friends again or something.
It means the
I'd like-
That's
opportunity
not how
there.
that works.
I'd like
And
to
then-
say in this hypothetical universe that you guys have this huge fight. I hope we record it because that will be comedy gold,
Right.
my friend.
No, it will be
Cap-
on the air.
Cap and Iron
It'll-
The problem is we're both Cap on the inside, so
right. That's the real problem there.
I have a fundamental disagreement with how Tony Stark lives his life.
Exactly.
Uh,
So it would be
I think
Hunter
it's-
who's Tony then.
What
but
was
yeah, they go back to Tony's house, and he's like, yeah, as long as you're not here to talk about going to fucking time
Talking
travel
shit.
to the universe, like you can stay for lunch. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah.
I like that he realizes what they're planning to do beforehand.
Well,
He's like,
Mhm.
let me guess, time travel. That's what you guys are thinking. So good.
Well,
But
that's-
the daughter is what makes all of that weight because it's the
Mhm.
oh my god, I can't remember what the movie is with that they did. I'm gonna forget. I can't remember what it is right now. The kid from Harry Potter and stuff is in it. Is it About Time?
I'm not sure.
It's one of the movies they bring up, but
Daniel
like
Radcliffe?
not Daniel Radcliffe. He's one of the twins.
Oh, Rupert. Oh,
Oh.
God. Oh, one of the ones who plays.
Oh no,
plays-
he's not. He's not one of the twins. He's the one that's in Star Wars.
Is it Bill? He's the one with the scar, right? The fucking
Yeah, he's the one-
Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah, and then he's in the movie,
Yeah.
and it's like Bill Nighy, and it's like all the males in their family
About
can go
time.
back in time, and like the
Oh.
lesson he
Yeah,
learns
it's
is
about
that like
time.
if you go back too far after you have a kid, like that kid will cease to be. So
Okay.
that is the importance of him having the daughter. Is that like, and that's what he says. Like, if we do anything, like she's first, like
Yeah.
everything else is second, and then my life is third. And that is why like the
I
specific
just-
things with the Hulk when they're like, which we have
Yeah.
to get
Mhm.
smart.
Yeah, well,
Well-
I mean, we'll get there. I just wanted to touch on something though.
Yeah.
Is how good a job this movie did with referencing older movies and kind of fucking with you in some ways. Like case in point,
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts of the entire movie because it did two different things really well. Was the elevator scene when we're in which
Yeah.
one.
I
One-
thought Cap was gonna walk into that elevator and fuck these dudes up even
That's-
worse
I
than
was-
he did the first
I
time.
was so waiting for him to say like, "Well, if any of you gentlemen want to get off, I advise you do that now." But when he then said "Hail Hydra," and that's a direct reference to a comic run that got so
Yes.
much shit.
That entire with the Avengers, like when they're in New York, everything is so great. The like when Hulk goes over to the thing and they're like, "Dude," and he's like, oh, "Hulk, we gotta take the stairs." He's like, "Hulk hates stairs," and he's like, "No, punch it!" And boom, hits it. I was like,
Or-
"Oh, that's so good."
Or even when the future Avengers get to New York and Bruce takes off the shirt and it's like,
He's
this
like-
seems kind of gratuitous.
It seems kind of obscene, but I'll do it anyway. And like he goes
He's like,
everything. He's like,
Punches a taxi. Gently throws a
He just-
motorcycle.
That goes back to like when we first get introduced into like Smart Hulk.
Mhm.
Is like
Professor
Yeah.
Hulk.
the scene with Lang is just like he's like, "Oh, you guys want to take a picture? Who are you?" And he's just like, "Oh, come on, take a picture." He's like, "Get the hell!" I can't remember what he says. It's like,
take your
"Get
goddamn
the
phone
hell out."
back.
Yeah, take your damn phone back. Yep.
Like, that was such
Yep.
like a weird little thing, but
Yes.
to show like the difference in like A team and like BC team.
hmm
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's really good. What was the thing I was gonna? Okay, so something that it's it's apparent in a couple different scenes, but the way in which this movie is like a direct reflection of Infinity War in terms of like when plot turns happen.
Oh my God.
Happens a couple of times. Like Tony saying that thing about she comes first. I guarantee that's like at the exact same time where Doctor Strange says, I don't care. If it comes to you and the kid versus the stone, I will pick the stone. And there are a couple other moments like that, and it's just
there's one that's really obvious
really
that like
well
I was
done.
that if the inclusion of the fucking music is what really put me over the fucking top when they go back to Vormir. I was like, you are battering my feelings right now.
Oh, but to go to the flip side, when they go to the other planet, when it's Nebula and War Machine, and we just see Chris Pratt dancing, and then we cut to where there's no music, and he's singing. So I was like, oh my God.
Rhodey's like, so he's an idiot.
I wonder what that matches up to in Infinity War. I'm curious. Probably him hitting Thanos. I bet. God damn it. But yeah, like even like the Bombay, I bet that happens at pretty close to the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a half-hour difference there, so it's. But yeah, like around the same point in the movie.
I don't know why it is for me, but like all of the funny scenes just like stand out because the movie's so heavy. But like the taco scene, it's just like it's
God damn it, that whole exchange, like Hulk walks out and he's like, "Here's a taco, tiny man." Like,
all right.
I love it.
And speaking of the funny scenes, how have we not touched on this? Fat Thor is the greatest.
I think we were working to that. Like, the problem is like it's not just a scene. It's from the moment he returns to the end of the film when he becomes a heavy metal album artwork.
And he's not. It's not like he got magicked skinny. He's still big fat Thor in a big fat Thor costume.
One of our amazing cameos comes in as like, "Oh, you should try eating salad."
Yes. That was
the cameos they have to be addressed too before we get back to it, because like
I cannot believe and how much time they got. Like
Michael Douglas got a fair shake. Like Howard Stark got an extended.
John Slattery. Like when I saw him in
the Ancient One got multiple scenes. Which is insane.
It was so good too.
And then I think that Natalie Portman's was footage from Thor 2.
It's definitely not anything new.
But I think it was. I actually think that was a deleted scene.
From the and then they digitally added. Yeah, Robert fucking Redford.
Like a new scene. New fucking scene.
He retired from acting and he still came back.
He has great grandchildren.
Probably. Yeah, no, he did say that like either his grandchildren or great grandchildren like him being in these movies.
Renee Russo was better than her entire performance in Thor 2.
Oh yeah,
that whole sequence was so. I'm like, because like I love the fact that some characters in these like not everyone's an idiot, and there are characters who like right away he's like, "Hi, Mom." She's like, "Oh, you're my Thor, but you're not my Thor from today." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "I was raised by witches, you dumb boy." Like, I know you're not around.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they have she has the most motherly talk with him, and it was beautiful. And she's like, "Yeah, you failed." She's like, "Of course you did." She's like, "It doesn't make you any worse than anybody else."
It's the best like mom in a movie thing, and then it ends with the most awesome thing where it's like, "Oh shit, we got dual wielding Thor."
Yes.
I could not fucking believe that happened because it was.
What that leads to was just like I was like, "Oh."
I do want to say like that moment, real quick, like theater reactions.
Yes.
The beheading. The beheading. Would you believe that, myself included, everyone in my theater recoiled as if someone just ran over an animal.
I did because I saw the movie with a 6-year-old. I was like, "Whoa!" I was not expecting this early.
I was not ready for one that kind of just blast out like really intense violence. I was also not ready for them to take the Darth Vader of our time and lop his head off in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
this just reminded me of one thing before you leave. That is the way Nebula reacts was so interesting. and I loved it. Because it's both like I knew that this had to happen, but he's still like my sort of father.
Yeah.
And she closes his eyes. I was like, oh, that is such a great. It's a very, again, to go back to what you're saying, like it's a Luke carrying Darth Vader, carrying Anakin out.
Yeah.
It's very kind of reminiscent of like, you are the villain, but you're also my father.
Yep.
Yeah. And I like the difference in the Thanoses that we get between Infinity War, the opening of this, and the one we get who comes back from the past is like the Thanos we get in Infinity War and in the beginning of this is someone who had to go through a bunch of shit to get to where he is, and like earns the respect. Like he finds respect in people he's facing because he's like, no, I get it. He's like, you're fighting for something you believe in. You feel you're right, and your valor is commendable. And then we get a slightly younger Thanos who's like, no, fuck you, fuck your planet.
He's a psychopath.
I don't give a shit about this place.
We have like Farmer Thanos who's like, who's like remiss to be like, oh, I won, so like I don't care, kill me. Yeah, I still won.
You failed. I won, and now I've destroyed your only method of fixing this. Go ahead. I spit on every effort you're going to make here today.
And the younger one almost takes like their attempt as an insult because he's like, "Oh, I already won, and you're trying to screw with it." Like I'm going to show you that. Like that line he says before he gets his head lopped off is like, "I'm inevitable."
Yeah,
and that is what. And then I believe the younger one sees that, and it's like. What you did is an insult, and it's why he does that awesome line of like, nothing I ever did was personal, but I am going to like ravage your planet.
I'm going to glass you.
I love his reaction to watching his head cut off because it's before he says like he's like because when the old Thanos is talking that video speech he says he won, and young Thanos is like, look at that. That's destiny. And then he gets his head lopped off. He's like, destiny fulfilled. Bam!
You see Corvus Glaive, who's just like, oh, what should we do? And he's just like, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. He's like, what do you mean? I won.
Well, that was something that I'd seen in some of the other groups I'm in talking about issues with this movie, which I have one very minor one, but we'll get to that. But people were complaining about the time travel aspect of this movie, and I don't understand how anyone had issues with it.
I love it. I love that they addressed like multiple times, and they're like, did you get this idea from Back to the Future?
Intentionally, they made it a point to bring up time travel tropes and then knock them down because they had their own rules in mind.
Yeah, I love when they're like, why don't we do this thing? And then like, was it Nebula and is it Thor? Who is it? It's Nebula and somebody, and then it's like War Machine and Ant-Man that are like naming off all the movies.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so the movie that's clearly the biggest impact is Back to the Future 2. And yeah, they like disregard Back to the Future altogether, but then they take one aspect of Back to the Future 2 and they use it perfectly, which is Biff in all of his different iterations. The most intimidating Biff is probably 50s Biff.
Yes.
He's like the most active and he's the most able to like cause harm to the main character. And they use that aspect of him, and they use all that stuff to really like flush out the character in the same way that they do in.
Well, I would
argue
Back to the Future 2 Dark Future Biff is actually the one who can do the most harm.
Probably, but if you're thinking about the scene in the tunnel, though,
although Future Biff did kill what's his name, the dad,
George,
because he.
Well, Future Biff is Future Biff is very similar to a certain political figure. So he's.
Don't say that too loud. I'm not too far away.
I do love that. I do love when fucking it's Rhodey who's like, I don't know, we just find baby Thanos and he makes the fucking rock like.
And he's like, it's
so
Thanos.
They even reference that because it's
my fucking Bruce Banner's like, A, that's horrible, and B,
no, that's really dark.
Yes, and that's just not how it works.
Yeah. And then I like that they actually explain it. It's like, well, if you did this and then you went back, then you want to be. It's if you ever want to know that thing, I actually love it in Connor. It's the Gohan in DBZ abridged when they're discussing like tangent universes, because that is the style of time travel that they address in this movie, which is the most.
It's also the Terminator version.
No, it's not the Terminator version.
because the Terminator one, when you go to the future, you can directly affect your past that you can go back to.
Yeah, they kind of create. They actually say like they basically explain that there's no way you can change the future. All things have happened.
Yeah. It's and actually, it's funny. Is like I find it weird that there's two very high-profile releases the same week that have more or less the same plot across two different entertainment mediums: Mortal Kombat 11 and Avengers Endgame.
Oh yeah,
because Mortal Kombat 11 is but Mortal Kombat 11 has their own rules where if you harm your past self in any way, your future self is fucked.
Yeah, well, that's how.
But go ahead, Luke.
Oh no, I was gonna say like I guess that's the frequency version of time travel. I'm trying to think of the which is another really decent time travel movie that also became a CW show because, of course.
I mean, I'll just bring up something that I've been saying on Lost Haro Pod a couple times, which is that you don't set up time travel in Game of Thrones and then don't come back to it at some point. So let's just throw that out there while we're bringing up recent things that may have time travel.
You mean like it might be Bran the Builder
plot aspect? I think that I don't think you set up Bran. Spoilers for Game of Thrones, trapping somebody in their own future, trapping their brain in their own future, and then causing them to become mentally, I'll say retarded. Yeah. I don't think you set that up and then not have that payoff.
That actor did Michael Rosenbaum's podcast and very much dodged questions about his return.
Right.
Also, he has
and I think that means that will play. I think time travel in general will play a part. Like again, you establish that Bran can go back in time and he can change things and affect things. So that's again like it's Chekhov's time travel.
I would say like the most comparable time traveling that this has is that popped out to me, and one of the movies is one that they did not mention in their big thing. Is so Dragon Ball Z, of course, and the other one was Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah,
Donnie Darko, especially when we get to the it's not Elder one, Ancient one. I was like, oh my god, that is like almost the way like to make the line. And then when we in Donnie Darko, when they're showing like the two blind things through people, it was like very very similar to that.
Kind of.
It's a tangential. I think it's string theory version. I know we're getting into quantum physics here, but it's that
string theory is more the one about alternate universes, which I guess could tie into time travel.
Alternate universes could be created through time travel.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what the Ancient One is saying. Is like, yeah, you take the time stone from here, and your timeline's great, but mine is fucked.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But then, like, actually, this movie kind of leads to a couple interesting possibilities with that because.
Oh, they completely fucked the timeline.
Because, well, I mean, especially in one instance, because in one instance, Loki grabs the Tesseract.
Yes, there are two tangential universes possibly created, up to 3.
I think so here's the thing. I think that at the end of his show, or at least the first season, he ends up returning to that exact moment or a couple moments later. So I don't really think much changes.
Is this a backdoor way for them to create a multiverse?
Oh, easily, yeah.
I don't think that's what they're doing. I really not with him in particular. I think that he goes off, he has adventures, and then he is returned by some character that we haven't met yet.
Also, like in regards to that, like if you want to really dig into it, like I think specifically in the case of Loki, because I figured this had to be brought up because it is such a big moment in the movie because that's where they lose the Tesseract. Like. I would have to imagine that even if Loki returned with the Tesseract, but without the Mind Stone, Thanos would be like, "You fucking failed, and I'm gonna kill you now."
Yeah.
Who says he?
I don't think he was going to Thanos.
Yeah,
I think he's just going off to do stuff.
He would take the Tesseract and go hide in the darkest corner of the universe he could find.
But that's the thing. It's never been established that. How does the Infinity Gauntlet work? Do the effects of the snap go across all universes?
Because all like different timelines.
Exactly, because
I would feel like it could only if you chose to.
Well, but that's the thing. I think you'd have to be specific because I think, and I don't mean you'd have to be specific. Like I want only this version, or I think that's how specific you'd have to be. I think if you were to be like, I don't want Thanos to exist. Snap.
Reference the trailer for Aladdin, where he's like, when you say you want me to make you a prince, like that can be interpreted multiple ways.
Well, exactly. So with what happens at the end of the movie, like with Tony's snap, are we to assume that he was just like, I don't want Thanos around? So that would mean that Thanos is Thanoi? Thano, yeah, wouldn't exist across all potential time streams and alternate universes, because you're dealing with gems that control all of those things.
Yes.
I mean, it gets confusing when you, well, especially, so let's talk about something that is very specific and how so the visions, right, that everybody had in Age of Ultron.
Mhm.
Yes.
That happened because of the Mind Stone, and because the stones don't exist in time and space the way that we do.
Yeah.
They're living organisms, and they exist transcendentally. So the best way to put this is, they are existing in every moment of all time throughout the rest of their existence. So,
but is there one set of stones? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. That's the same stones.
Yeah.
And even if you bring them from another timeline, it's the same stones.
Are you saying you could
know what happened before? They don't see time as a flowing river. They see it as water in a bottle.
Okay,
basically.
They are a universal and time universal constant.
You couldn't conceivably fill a space with 2 time stones.
Yeah, if let's say time was a river, they would be a stone that sits in the same place in all variations of time.
Well,
exactly.
To make it work,
so that's
if
why
time is a river, but if time in this dimension, there would be infinite rivers up and down, and the stone reaches from the top to the bottom, infinity.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why they got their visions. That's even though the stones were destroyed by the time Cap goes back in time, it doesn't matter, because the stones see all. They see him dancing with Peggy. They see snippets and pieces of the end of this movie that become Tony's vision, and they see Ragnarok happening. They see everything that happens with Thor. That's why things in the visions are a little bit off and a little bit weird, and that's why Natasha's vision isn't of the future. It's her past through this weird filter. So yeah, I wonder what Hulk saw, because I'm sure he actually saw something, but we'll never know what it was.
I know what it was, because even if they showed us like Banner's until this movie, his interpretation would, because I can't remember what movie he talks about it in, but like he's like, it's just like snippets and cuts and more of like a feeling.
I think it's his movie. Yeah, in his movie, he says it's like
that Norton one.
Yeah, it's he says it's like seeing, it's like you're witnessing it and you're feeling bits and pieces of it, but he describes it as like it's more like emotion and not really like
it's
there.
More of a, it's not watching a movie. It's more like
you're
just letting the emotions flow through you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do feel like we should address the third act, because fuck,
it was the third act was everything that Ready Player One wanted to be.
Exactly.
Before you do time out, I think we should each say the moments when we almost cried.
Oh well,
yeah, I think that's fair.
We're talking about it right now. I mean,
yeah,
because like there are definitely like parts in the first 2 acts I almost cried.
I'll go first. Like for me, there were the parts that I was like, okay, I get the emotional. I am a robot. I understand the emotional resonance of this scene. But
I am laugh now. Ha 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 ha.
But the part that out of nowhere, I was like, oh my god, was when Pete showed up again for the first time. Like when the portal opened and Pete came out and he and Tony started talking, I was like,
see, that didn't get me as much.
Child hug me.
My first moment,
the entire Pearl sequence for me was just I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I was more pumped. My first moment was the 72. There's actually 2 parts in the is it 72 or 75? Doesn't make it. The 70s one is when Cap is standing in the room and sees the photo of himself, looks at the door, and then looks through the one-way glass, and just the heart.
So that and
that
that and Natasha,
because like seeing the wheels turn in his head of like I can't Like I cannot do anything, and she's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and then the music plays, and that was the first thing of like, oh, Sylvester's going back, and he's bringing back all his cues from the other movies. I'm gonna cry later because if he's gonna continue this, because yeah, like so the first time where I remember feeling like a tear was like when you hear Sam on the radio and he says, on your line. And then the portals start to open.
That didn't get me there. I was more just pumped.
Honestly, like,
well, for me, it was also it's the music also and the way that built, and it was like when you've seen a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat many times before, and like somehow they do it again, but they slow down that moment where you're realizing that the rabbit is coming out of the hat, and it just like builds and it builds until, and it just like, it was so much. It was the music, the score in this whole movie is fantastic.
I mentioned before, but Vormir, because like I was like, there's no way that both of them aren't leaving this planet. Like they'll cheat.
I thought they
I was like, I could see Hawkeye doing this because Hawkeye would really believe like, no, I have like he's in Tony's position where he's like, I have everything to gain here and nothing to lose. Nothing else you could possibly take from me, so I'm jumping off this fucking thing. But then in Nat's eyes, like Nat's like, no, I like you guys are it. So if I lose you, that's it. Yeah. Like, and I can't stand here and let you do this because you are my family.
Yeah.
And then, but when he goes and she grappling hooks him, I was like, this is it. This is the cheat. But then, like the longer that went, I was like, don't fucking do it. Because Black Widow was the one I was not expecting at all. Like,
she was definitely the one that,
really didn't think that was going to happen.
That moment when he's just like in the water on his knees, and then he's just like looks
so mad. Like,
he's like furious, and it's like that weird combination of emotions that Runner does a great job of, like furious at the universe and just like endless depths of sorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it's also perfect because
there's nothing you can do as far as like, oh, let's bring her home. You fucking can't.
Yeah. Oh, and then when they have that conversation later, he's just like, no, she's gone. She's gone. You want to go talk to the space guy with the red space guy? Go ahead. Go talk to him. She's gone.
Ah, that was so good. Mm-hmm. That was so good. But yeah, it's perfect because she saved him and he saved her.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's the thing. There's so much circular stuff going on.
It goes back to like the Hulk talking to Banner talking to Thor, which then doesn't pay off until Rocket's like, we have beer on the ship, which is like, again, like the Russos did such a good job of just like cutting in great moments of like into these heavy ass scenes.
Yeah, like I mean,
because like Fat Thor is funny, but then like you peel way back, you're like, Fat Thor is funny, but Fat Thor is extremely tragic because if you walk into his house and say Thanos, he will have a nervous breakdown because he's like, thank you for reminding me of my ultimate failure that cost the lives of literal billions of people.
You mean when a god having a panic attack?
He's inherently broken. Yeah.
Completely way.
I have complicated feelings on Thor, but I don't want to go into them now because but
third act.
Yeah, he's but so Tony,
holy shit.
Do we want to start at the moment? I feel like the third act kicks off really hard the moment Cap has the hammer.
Yes, and I think we need to say that like Cap gets that hammer and acts and uses it as if he's been using it his whole fucking life.
It's like total Mortal Kombat combat moves. It's like throw the shield, hit it off the shield, shockwave, spin around. Yeah. It's perfect.
Well, it's I mean, Cap within the comics and I mean essentially in the movies has been the master strategist of the MCU. So it would make sense that even though he never thought he would be able to have the hammer, he's always been like, well, if I had the hammer, I would do this and this and this and this, and he did all of it.
Yeah. Also, Thor's fucking reaction because is a direct callback to Ultron, where like he gets it like off the table, and Thor's like, "Ha! I knew it."
Yep. Yep.
And again, that's a payoff of their scene in the first Avengers, where they're like ready for another bout, like.
When the shield, when the hammer hits the shield, he's like, "Oh, he took that information and like uses it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and,
yes, like it's just everything builds on top of itself, and it's just.
And then when his shield is breaking, like when he's fighting Thanos, is just so great, and just that slow crawling himself out of the dirt, and he's battle damaged, and pulling himself up with the broken shield is just like. Perfect.
And I love that he didn't need to say it, but it was in his ethos. He didn't even need to say it.
I was waiting for it though,
like,
and
I would have been waiting since the first movie for him to say it. Like, come on,
I'm talking about his line. I can do this all day. We didn't need him to say that.
No,
like he didn't need to say it. It was there. Like he that was already paid off in Civil War, but you felt it in his being. Like. I can do this all day, and like,
that moment only got like we started talking about before, but like when he's sitting there looking at Thanos and like he is like Tony's down, Thor's down, and it's almost I was like, this is gonna be the one punch from the comics, isn't it? Where Thanos walks up and just fucking KOs the shit out of Captain America forever. But then like he takes a step forward, and I hear Steve. I was like,
mm-hmm.
Oh my god, yeah, the entire I'm
like what? And like
my entire artist, you felt them take
the theater was like was a peak on an audio like a display. It was a fucking straight line.
Yeah.
Because then you hear on your left, and I was like internally, I was like,
oh, and I would say audience wise, this may be different because this might be where I live because I live in the DC metro area. The first group that walks out is Panther, Shuri, and
no, I heard people like as if the entire son had just walked in. I heard people go like, oh!
Panther and Shuri walked out, and I can't remember what is the other character's name. I'm so bad. Walk out. My entire theater.
Guerrero.
Yeah.
The only other character that got a clap was Peter.
Yeah.
And he starts the chant, and then the army of wizards and Wakandans and fucking
another great lighthearted when Doctor Strange goes like, "Is that everybody?" And Wong's like, "Would you?" What was he say? Like, did you want more?
Do you need more? Did you want more? It's so good.
Yeah.
But yes, and it's like, but here's the thing: the only people that were missed were the Nova Corps. Actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but they're straight up. But they died before.
Yeah, they got murked.
They're destroyed. Like there's none of them. But if there were any, and if they had shown, like, I actually thought that they were going to be the ones who were coming from.
I thought we were going to get like a space regalia like coming in, but I guess those were all Wakanda ships
or Ravagers.
Well, that was I was kind of expecting Ravagers, but. I guess at the time James Gunn wasn't as heavily involved in Endgame as he was in Infinity War, so they probably were like, all right, well, let's not touch that.
Mm-hmm.
But Carol coming down was getting.
I think we should touch on Captain Marvel real quick because there was a lot of fear on the internet, and I saw it at work. People were like, I don't want Captain Marvel, a brand new character to this universe, to walk in and one punch Thanos.
Yeah,
they did, but she didn't do that. But like her entrance is great when they're all like fighting and everything's going on. And I also love like Lang's entrance when he's just like and comes out. Mm-hmm. And again, he punched a fucking space whale.
Yes, he did.
He punches a fucking space whale. He tackles it like a fucking champ.
Like no, that's like the second one. He left hooks the first one.
Yeah, the first one that he comes out and just sucker punches one of them.
Which
so good.
Real quick, Connor, before you jump onto your point, I did think it was interesting that Scott was essentially giant for most of the fight, and after Civil War, I mean, mind you, it's been how many years, but I just thought it was interesting that he's maintaining his huge size for much longer periods of time than like.
I feel like he was even bigger in this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He's so like there. I remember in Infinity War being like, this is the biggest it'll ever get. Like they'll never beat the scale of this ever. I was so fucking wrong.
This was so fucking. There's a shit ton to unpack here because, like it's one like even down to the finest elements. Like Bucky got like 5 minutes of screen time in this film, and when he came rolling out, there's still seconds in my theater who were like, yes,
5 minutes, but like 4 of those minutes are at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
he gets 30 seconds in the battle. Yeah. I feel like he gets less time than Wong.
But no, Connor, you had a point about Captain Marvel you wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah, and like she's used exquisitely this movie because she shows up at the beginning, and I have to assume that they sent her out to look for Tony, or she went to look for Tony on her own, because
I think they sent her.
I think so too, because they're not.
I think
the scene after Captain Marvel happens before.
Yeah.
They don't show it again.
Yeah. And then her showing up with her short haircut in the middle was great.
Is it Rocket that says like, "Oh, what are you going to get another haircut?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, something I didn't notice is that her look to Rhodey. I guess they have a relationship in the books, and that was. I like that they set that up very subtly.
They what? So.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because as soon as they started double teaming Thanos, I was like, please don't impale Rhodey, because I don't want that to happen right now.
I thought she was going to get it at one point.
But when she grabs Thanos and he headbutts her, and she looks up like,
nothing,
you bitch, and he's like I said, the constant befuddlement of Thanos, but the back half of the film is fantastic, because
he's like, what?
Because when Wanda shows up and he's like, who the fuck are you? And she's like, oh, everything. He's like,
what? What I thought of in that moment was Raul Julia in Street Fighter. It's like, to you, that was the most important day of your life. To me, it was a Tuesday.
But this is a Thanos who hadn't even done that yet. So he's like, he's like, who are you? What did I do? I don't know what's happening. Why are you so strong?
Well, that was the thing when Captain Marvel did come down and start wrecking shop. I was honestly concerned that Thanos was going to get off a snap again, because he was just about to, and then all of a sudden she grabs his hand and just like I do feel like Captain Marvel got a little bit
somewhere. Like she stopped his fucking fingers.
Yeah, I do feel like
she break his fingers.
I do feel like
she was knuckling him, right? Like she put her hands between his fingers and was basically about to break his fingers back.
Yeah, she was pushing them backwards. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I do feel like she got a little bit of short shrift in this movie, because they were selling her pretty hard before Captain Marvel came out, and Captain Marvel was great. But then it's like, all right, so she's going to be this big league part of Endgame, and it's like, maybe not so much.
I think it was the fact that the guy who punched out the Hulk gave her a straight unprotected shot, and she looked up like, okay,
yeah, she got two.
He has to take the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and punch her directly with that to get a
fucking... you get off of me, fuck this, go away.
But she also takes out, when she shows up, she takes out his entire ship single-handedly, and then she finds fetal position Peter. And and he's like, are you sure? Can you take them all on? And that's where we get our Superwoman team up. Yes. And everyone is wrecking house, and then she just flies through and everyone dies around her.
Yeah. Well, and that was.
Sorry, last thing before to also go into tie-in, initiate.
Yes,
what is it?
That's what I was going to bring up. Kill mode or whatever it was. Yeah, I was so glad they actually decided. Wait, that could be really interesting, because
I like that he's just sitting
sorry.
there He's gonna pile of Outriders. Like, I got this. I'm sorry. I got this. He's deep in a Outrider corpses.
And he's just somebody help.
He jumps onto a.
No, what were you gonna say, Arlen?
The handle that is great too. When Cap is like, "Hold on," it just whips the hammer.
Yes, but what was I saying? Oh, he fucking jumps onto a fucking Pegasus as they fucking destroy a fucking
nice flying horse or something.
He's just like, oh, hey, it's nice to meet you. I heard and then
the gauntlet run, I guess, or the gauntlet. From Hawkeye getting it, because they said Hawkeye's gonna be pretty important. I'm like, he's the first one who gets it, and he's like, I'm playing keep away, and then he's getting overrun, and fucking T'Challa is like, give it to me.
He says, Clint, give it to me. And again, it's a fucking callback to I don't care.
Yeah.
And he's like,
and then he takes it, and then he loses it, and then fucking Peter doesn't someone
get just about to grab it, and Peter Webb grabs it.
Yeah, he takes it. And then like just the consistent like keep away from Thanos, and then like the other stuff happening in the background, like there was that quick shot, Bucky and Rocket shooting back to back one more time.
How about when Hawkeye dive bombs and stabs his goddamn wings into one of those? Was that Ebony Maw, or was that somebody else?
It was, I think it was.
I think it was.
No, what? Ebony.
Yeah, I think it was Black Star.
No, does Giant? I think Ant-Man kills Ebony Maw.
Yeah, he does. He steps on him.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those giant monster
Falcon
things.
takes somebody out with his wings, though.
Yeah,
so he fucking with those wings.
Yeah, no,
that's when I was like,
you see, what's his face? The guy with the spear, Corvus Glaive. He gets murked by Okoye.
Yes.
Or Okoye?
Yes.
He's one of the first to go. He runs up and Okoye impales the fucking shit out of him and just out.
Shears already fought him once. Or no, she fought. We don't see Proxima Midnight. In the wide shot, we see her, but we never see her get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably not much to gain from seeing her get destroyed by Wanda twice. So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then I guess we have to get to like to Doctor Strange also as well. Like who's like I like how Doctor Strange came back and was like, all right, everything's going exactly as planned.
It's like, wait, can you tell us what's going on? It's like, if I tell you, it won't happen.
Yeah.
And he's so casual. He's like, good, everything's right on time. Everyone's here. Okay, I'm gonna start doing my magic thing. And like when Tony's like, one, he's like, yep, one. Then like when
magic water tornado.
Oh my god. But like I was okay. So like the Hulk snapped. Like that was the one I was anticipating, and honestly, I thought I was gonna kill him.
I actually like the entire explanation of like, oh, the gamma, whatever, like I can absorb it and all this stuff. I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna see two. Like that's when I knew we were gonna see two.
Yeah, and see that's where I was worried that Captain Marvel was gonna come in and be the one who can wear the glove and do the snap.
I was waiting for Nebula to put it on. I thought
too.
I thought that since we had two, that the current timeline one was going to do it and leave us with the past one that's like really confused. Which is not what happened at all.
Yeah, because then we got the first one, and that's when Hulk will be back. Which is done exquisitely well when not just the phone rings and then like Scott walks out the window and sees the birds chirping. And he's like,
yes.
Yeah, I think it worked. And they faked me out there because I thought he fucking died.
Yep. Yeah, I was like, you motherfuckers, you killed him already? Like, yeah. Continue, sorry.
But when Thanos gets the stones again, and he does this whole I am inevitable thing, and then snap and clink. That was when like I was like, oh fuck! But I think I was prepared for it happening, but not how it was happening. Of Tony assembling the stones into his own fucking backup glove.
Yep.
Like basically, like, oh yeah, I kind of prepared for this too because I'm fucking ridiculous. And his "I am Iron Man" line, like it, I felt it from like when he was like and I was like, it started in my stomach and built up, like it fed all the way through the top of my brain. I was like, say it.
Yeah. Oh, it was so.
But that's when I knew we were in for some bad shit as soon as he did that. But however, before we get to that awfulness, the fact that Tony made Thanos watch as everything he had brought just fucking turns to dust. I was like, it's not just the fact that he gave, not the fact that he returned the favor, it's that he made Thanos watch just like Tony and everybody else had to watch. And like Thanos is like, and I said, the befuddlement of Thanos just continues because of that entire third act, because he starts off super arrogant. He's like, I'll sit here and wait and you guys can come fight me and I'll fuck you up. And then as each subsequent turn from the other side keeps happening, like he takes off his helmet, like his armor's getting banged up and his sword falls apart, and he's just constantly just getting like, I'm so sick of this. Like at some point he's like, just burn the whole place down. And he tells his men to fire down, like I think it's it's Ebony Maw, who's like, our men are down there. He's like, I don't care, burn them all.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch is wrecking his shit.
Yeah, exactly. Just destroying him, and he's just like, what? He's I was not ready for today.
Although, can I say one thing? Like when this Tony snap happened, I thought for like a good minute that Thanos was not going to be part of it. That he wanted to leave him there. to see that everything is
Yeah,
gone.
I did too.
Just to have him sit there and lose everything.
Yes.
But he's
too powerful.
That's
That's
the exact same shot that he's at the exact same shot where it ended in Infinity War.
Sitting down,
like,
yes.
Yes, it's so good. Yeah. And I mean, so I think Eric, you sent this photo, which is actually something that I've been thinking about. I didn't realize the Cap thing, but you know, I was thinking of Avengers while I was watching this movie, and when he snaps his finger, the only thing I could think of was, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. You're not the guy to sit on the wire while somebody else crawls over you. And that's all I could think of was that, and him just he did it.
But
the big difference is though that this is now Tony as a father.
Right. And
it is, but
that's his whole arc.
It's Tony as a father and Tony after he talked to his father about being a father.
Yeah.
Yes.
For people who, all two of you who are listening, there's a picture that has Cap with his quote of "You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play," and below it is a picture of Iron Man with the Infinity Gems, and to the other side of it is Tony saying to Cap, "Everything special about you came out of a bottle," and it's a picture of Cap holding Mjolnir.
Yeah.
So it's coming around for what both men were saying about each other.
But then we get to like Tony's actual death, which is like it is ghastly. Not because it's overly graphic, it's because like he didn't get a speech, he didn't get a final word. He is charred.
He's basically got like nuked from the inside.
He is fried and like at 1% essentially. The only reason he's still conscious is because he's too fucking stubborn to die right away.
Yeah, the only thing he says is pepper.
Yeah.
I actually think that he's not even conscious. I think it's the thing in his chest keeping the person alive.
Yeah. And he's just staring off into space, and like he doesn't go until Pepper tells him like just go.
Oh, but we get the scene with we get that again, like as Infinity. We get the reverse scene with Peter.
Yeah,
which is like that entire thing was when like
the same way, man.
Was the second time I like got choked up real hard.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you say, Arlen?
I said it's heartbreaking the same way it was watching Peter dust. Like it's just
Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, and then
I don't want to go.
Yeah,
the Pepper hand on the shoulder and being like, "It's okay."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, they better let her get like the things." And then the way with his hand without the armor on hers with it, was like a great thing. And then just watching the literal light flicker out.
Yeah, and then we didn't mention before, but like her showing up in the rescue armor was like I should have seen it coming because they telegraphed it. But like when she actually does, I was like, "Holy fuck!" Even Pepper Potts is fighting at the end of this fucking movie.
And again, it's not out of place because she was in Iron Man 3 fucking kicking ass.
Also, I fully expect that if I gave a mother who is trying to ultimately keep her family safe a suit of armor that's weaponized, she's gonna fuck everyone's world up. And she does a pretty goddamn good job. When she gives Tony permission to just let go, and he does, and like it's
what ties into the beginning of the movie when she's like, you can go to bed, but you're not going to rest.
Yeah.
And the last shot of them on that battlefield is her holding his, just touching the arc reactor as it like goes out.
Yeah, it's her armored hand on the arc reactor with his non-armored hand on top.
Well, but that's Yeah, I know. I was going to say it's not really the arc reactor, but I'm just thinking of it's not the one that's implanted in his chest anymore.
It's the one that's sitting. It's the nano thing.
Still, again, that's a direct callback to Iron Man 1, and it's
which they then go to when we get to the funeral
scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I'm so glad they brought that back.
Well,
I just kept on saying to myself, Tony Stark proof that he has a heart, and then they show it, and it's on that little thing of flowers or whatever.
The picture of how the way that old arc record looks was emulated when they put their fists together in the
time thing.
Yes.
Huh.
There's a picture. Someone put it side by side. It's
Yeah.
like it says proof Tony Stark has a heart, and it says like there's basically a side by side, and like the way the fists are formed looks like the old arc reactor from a distance.
I'll have to look that up.
That's something I was really glad with the funeral scene too, is that we weren't getting some ridiculous speech. We were getting to hear, wasn't it just Tony talking from the recording? He
was the Tony talking, and then there was nothing. It was just a pan out.
Yeah.
Through the crowd where we got to see everybody. Because we saw Michael Douglas, and we saw like Lang, Michael Douglas, like all of them. Michelle Pfeiffer.
I missed him, but apparently Ross was there.
Yes, he is behind the kid that I couldn't figure out. So the last people on the thing, it was on the left was the like Pym people, Pym and Lang and them. And on the right,
it goes to Bucky and Scarlet Witch and Falcon.
It's the kid, Colby Smulders,
then Ross.
Oh God, I missed that.
Colby Smulders, and then behind her is Hurt, and then Nick Fury walks out, which is the kid that it took until like you guys explained it to me was the kid from Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
he's like 10 plus
I totally
years old.
missed William Hurt. Wow, I didn't even realize.
but then like John Favreau on the fucking porch with
the cheeseburgers.
Like he's like you're gonna make goddamn cheeseburgers you want for the rest of your life.
Well, no, the first thing is like your dad liked cheeseburgers, so it's like, oh my god, how do you call back this? The goddamn cheeseburgers is a heartbreaking callback.
It's so good. It's so good. It's just
And I also love the scene of Clint and Scarlet Witch. That was a great scene. It's like
like Bruce mentioning, like I tried bringing Nat back as hard as I could, and like I just wasn't allowed to. Yeah. Which I think is interesting. Like it speaks to the nature of the gauntlet. It's like no, you can, like there are things that we won't let you do. Like sure you can undo something that we did, but like but anything that happened in the pursuit of getting these stones, like you're not going to undo.
Yeah. No, I think it specifically has to do with the Soul Stone.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Soul Stone sort of blocks.
Well, but the same thing. Like, could you theoretically wish Vision back?
Yes.
The
thing is, Vision. I guess we can when we get to talking about like kind of the post this is like Vision is the AI kind of the stone mixed with Jarvis.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to. Who do we think Scarlet Witch was saying? Was she saying Vision when she's like?
I don't know. I think she might have been. I think she might have been talking about Quicksilver because Quicksilver and Hawkeye.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Quicksilver and Hawkeye had a friendly relationship near the end of Age of Ultron.
And Quicksilver dies saving Clint.
Yep.
But Quicksilver wouldn't even
conceptualize his fucking son after him too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I just thought Vision.
Nathaniel Pietro Barton.
Yep.
Is that the older son, the one that looks a little goofy?
Probably.
He's the one who's a baby at the very beginning, but now he's like
the 5
like 10 or whatever.
Yeah, because Barton has 3 kids. The oldest one, I was like, this actor looks like neither of these adults.
All right, yeah, we should get to the ending and then I think probably wrap because I know we've got an early day tomorrow, Arlen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. But I can talk about Peggy and Steve and Old Man Steve.
The greatest story in all history.
So this is the one thing, and it's such a minor like comic nerd issue. I wish Bucky would have gotten the shield, and I get it. But god damn it, why didn't Bucky get the shield?
Okay, here's the thing. And I told you this earlier, and I still stand by it. It doesn't make sense for him to have it.
It doesn't
at this moment.
But motherfucker, after Civil War, how in the fuck are you going to show that fight scene with Cap and Bucky beating on Iron Man, passing the shield back and forth, and then be like, let's give it to Falcon?
Here's my thing because Bucky's not getting it yet.
See, I think Bucky.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Bucky cannot be the Cap that the visible Cap.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is that to the people of the world? Not at this point. It's like the world or the universe. Like he's not the right person to be the visible Captain America.
Yeah.
he can't be the person who inspires people and is like this icon, this living icon.
Yeah, I get it.
But giving it to Falcon, it means something more.
Especially the way they do it with that speech when he's like, it feels like it's not mine or it's somebody else's. And he's like, that's why it's yours.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I disagree with the choice. I'm just like initially I'm like, but I wanted to be Bucky.
Me too. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, the problem is I like Sam and Bucky like in pretty much the same level. So I'm like, don't make me choose. But okay,
if this goes into that show, maybe it's like Sam is the Captain America of the light, and Bucky is the Dark Knight. Like he is the one doing all the dirtiness that he.
Bucky's the one you send into a country late at night to take out a political opponent or like a
and it's how do those two balance each other as a team?
They're two sides of the same coin. Like, they share cap, but Bucky is doing the dirty work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, and as I brought up earlier, there's a context in the comics. It
totally is. It totally is.
There's a degree of guilt in him taking up the mantle of Captain
There is.
America.
It's also that Cap sees it as a road of redemption for Bucky, and the movies have taken a very different path. That Bucky has redeemed himself to an extent. Like it's gone a very different direction than the comics did, and that's why I'm like, okay, cool. I want to see what happens with Sam as Cap.
Especially with that show. Like I feel like when I saw that I was like, oh, this is another great moment of these two characters, and we have a TV show coming.
Yeah. So they go to send Cap back with like the time travel technology, and like as soon as he didn't come back, when they go to bring him back, I'm like,
I knew
exactly what
the minute the interaction happened between Cap and Bucky, where Bucky's like, all right, I'll see you, buddy. I was like, yep, he's not coming back. He's
I was like, the Ultron visions come true.
Yep.
That he went back in time and he
got his dance.
I just love the fact that like it's a temporal miracle basically. It's like they send him back and then Bucky's like, nah, wait a minute, he's fucking right there.
Well, at any point, but like this is the other like tangent universe things. Like, well, as long as Cap doesn't allow anybody but Peggy to know he's Cap, things are kind of the same, and at some point you could have been like, oh, you won't understand this, but when a thing happens, look to your left, and I'm there.
Yeah. Well, also, and this is the other thing to think about that's going to break everybody's minds. What if this whole universe has been set in the world where Cap traveled back in time? What if we've discussed in that before. Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he might be responsible for some things. Like I guarantee you we will have flashes of him like doing certain things. Maybe you know.
Oh, that you actually just reminded me of one of their other callbacks, which was when they were in the 70s and Howard's looking for Zola. I was like, oh, that is such a good little kind of callback to like this time period.
Yeah.
But Cap detailing like, you know, his quick little trip back and like when he goes to shake Sam's hand and the wedding ring is there, and Sam's like, "You want to tell me about her?" And Steve's just like, "Nope, I'm not gonna tell you anything."
No, I don't think I
was off in the fucking lake. Yep, and then the movie fucking and like, okay, here's the thing. Before I say this, if you're one of the few people who think that this ending ruined the film, jump up the ass of a dead elephant. Okay, fuck yourself.
Are there people that actually don't like the way that this closes?
They don't like the way that it ends for Cap, and it's so fucking dumb.
It's so good. This was actually my third. This is the thing that actually got me the closest to crying.
You're a fucking halfwit if you think this ruined the movie or you ruined the series. Like, I don't have nicer words for you. You're a fucking twit if you think this ruined. And I don't care what race or creed. I don't care what you are. I don't care if you're a talking dog. You're a fucking like you don't deserve to write about films or art, or you don't deserve to have a journalism career if you think this ending that they have been telegraphing since the first fucking movie when he said, I hate, you're an idiot. If you think that ruins this film, you're a moron. Now that being said, the ending's fucking beautiful, and god damn it, it was so good.
It's the perfect happy ending to let Chris Evans go.
Yep.
And
I'm so glad that, because when he said, like, that's it, I'm done, this is my last film, everyone's like, thanks, Chris, you just told Brady you're gonna die in this movie. I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like,
well, but even if he had died, it wouldn't have mattered because they would have handled it in a way that wouldn't have been expected.
And it's better than death. He got the happy ending.
Also, to address, like, to have Steve die and to have Tony die, or what some people are saying, to not bring any of the Snap victims back. You people also don't deserve to critique these things. Because I would never want to live in a world where someone like you is pushing out fiction in this level, because your bleak ass attitudes about villains always having to win is fucking depressing. Or maybe you should just go work for the WWE. That's my only two options for you. I don't say fuck up or go be Vince McMahon.
The world we're left with is darker than the people from the Snap not being brought back.
Yeah,
because you have the people that brought back have no idea what happened. They immediately, because based on what Peter said, they're just back. And then everybody else aged 5 years in a more hopeless,
they lost 5 years.
Yes.
Like,
well, some of them moved on also. That's the other thing. Some of them moved on, went on with their lives, got married, had new relationships, fell in love.
Governments.
And now their wives and husbands
might be world leaders who now have to face the fact that the person who was essentially cosmically assassinated before them is now just thrust into existence again, and you're going to have elections, you're going to have vacuums of power, you're going to have struggles, you're going to have conflicts, you're going to have stupid political disputes. It's going to be turmoil for a long time. Regardless, though, like, to have Steve die after all of this would feel so fucking anticlimactic, because, like, he was robbed of the life he would have lived otherwise. And then to just murder him at the end of the series would have been such a deflating action.
Well, he was robbed of a life, period.
Yeah.
And Tony got to live a full life. So I think it's a perfect parallel that he got to live the life that he deserved for everything that he did.
If you connect the group therapy scene with the peanut butter sandwich scene, he says, like, he does the whole speech in the group therapy scene, and then the peanut butter sandwich scene, he's like, but we can't let go.
Yeah.
So he's never let go of that original thing.
Yep.
It's why he still holds the lock.
I mean, he
still
has
the compass.
He still has the compass with her picture in it. Like,
how fucking depressed that have been? Like, he goes up against Thanos, and Thanos punches his fucking head into oblivion. His locket just falls at him. Like, great, I feel fantastic. I'm so uplifted.
Mm-hmm. But I think we should probably wrap. I think we should save speculation for when we do a full review of this.
Well, I think we could do better. I think we could do a better State of the Universe episode probably coming up, because this is acting like a review episode anyway.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a lot of things. I don't know if it's a review necessarily, but
it is an obligatory Endgame chat that doesn't really have a place in any sort of type of show. It's still spoilers, and we should cover it with spoiler tags. And if you listen to far and you got angry at us, I don't know what to tell you, because I don't
want to
about how the colors looked.
I don't want to start this down a divergent time stream, so we end up being up until 2 a.m. But I do want to give Marvel's advertising team an amazing amount of props, because all of those commercials, there wasn't a single scene that was coming. Maybe there was one scene that came from much later in the film, and I think that was just when there were explosions. The explosions behind Hawkeye, and that was it.
There's some stuff from New York.
They flat out deceived you with any footage of Thor that wasn't him sitting in that room by himself.
Yep.
Exactly.
And the hands holding each other, which they made it look like it was Cap, which I know me and Arlen said it was not going to be Cap with Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Like, everything was cut in a way to just, like, completely trick you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should wrap. I think it's been a good discussion because I think we all needed to talk about this on the air.
Yes, we did.
Well, I just need to affirm that it actually happened because as I've said in the chat, I was unsure if I dreamed the movie or not. So you guys have allowed me to understand.
I honestly haven't really stopped smiling since I left the theater.
Yeah.
And I walked into work the next day, and I was concerned people would look at me and go, "What the fuck is the matter with you?" And me have to sit there and go, "I saw Endgame."
Yeah, I watched it.
I just think of that giant splash page scene of the armies facing against each other.
I watched it and jumped on here. Like there was like a 40-minute difference.
Yeah. Like, and this is my last word on it. This is the kind of movie that's made me want to go back and watch Thor 2, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And Ant-Man and the Wasp. And three of you, as you can attest, three of those movies.
I will say, this, the way this, and Cosmonaut said this recently when he was talking about, because he contributed to the one Marvelous Scene thing, and he said initially, he says, I didn't really like a lot of the MCU. He's like, now that I've watched it and digested it, and now that Infinity War happened, he says, and Endgame's coming around, he says, these movies continuously give me something I'm not expecting, and that makes them so worth the journey. And he's like, and he's like, I can't conceivably call any of them terrible. And after something like this happens, you go, wow, none of these really have been a waste of time.
Nope.
And I would never, especially doing Movie Dumpster, ever conceivably call any of these films bad. And and now I've been kind of waving this flag too. If you're one of these people who likes to say things like Inception is the worst film you've ever seen, or Iron Man 2 is the worst film you've ever seen, or blah blah blah, that is a widely praised, a heralded film is the worst film you've ever seen, I fucking dare you to sit through a third of the garbage that we've had to sit through from Movie Dumpster. That way you can evaluate your garbage perspective on cinema.
I mean, even the garbage that we've done on here, like we had to watch Spawn.
I don't think
Spawn's not that bad.
Watch Supergirl.
I don't think
that was.
If you think Iron Man 2 is terrible, I don't think you really know what terrible is. That being said, I'm so fucking glad that I got to live through this era of movies, and I'm glad that I got to see the Infinity Gauntlet storyline from 1994 blasted on screen over the course of 11 years. And that it happened as beautifully as it did. Now, Warner Brothers, please, for the love of God, just give me a good Justice League. Just do it.
Or a good movie that is not one of the tertiary.
No, they gave us Shazam. Shazam's awesome. I'll defend Shazam.
He's tertiary as
give
fuck.
Me my go back in time and give me my goddamn Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Give me a Superman movie that isn't fucking sad balls, fucking 9/11 bullshit, fucking.
All right. Well, before we go down a tangent of ranking on WB, I think we should sign off, guys.
Yeah. So, Movie Dumpster, Howard the Duck will be out this week. Look forward to a Howard the Duck Avenge the Fallen poster, courtesy of Joe.
Got the duck titties.
Joe loves that movie and all the power to him. I don't like it at all.
Okay.
I don't.
Joe's is my least favorite person.
Does Joe have brain trauma?
It's got a child molester getting taken over by giant space demons.
I mean, Joe likes it because it's a special effects bonanza, and Joe's a special dude, and it has.
Okay, that's fair.
The end of that movie, the last third of that movie, has some of the best looking stop motion effects
it does.
I've ever laid eyes on. Okay,
I hope you guys talk about how long
the monster in that is really fucking scary.
I hope you guys talk about how long it took them to figure out that effect to get the feathers to stand up.
We didn't, but we spent a lot of time talking about the lighting effects, like the Ghostbusters S effects, and.
I'm pretty sure it took them 3 to 6 months to figure that one effect out.
We talked about how the animatronics were fucking up left and right.
Took them 1 day to come up with a duck con. 1 day.
I didn't like it. The only thing I liked about it was Leah Thompson and the stop motion effects and everything like that. I didn't like it. We also have Bushwhacked coming out with Daniel Stern I'm not a fan of that one either. I'm 32. I don't have a lot of tolerance for PG physical comedy anymore. I can't. I didn't hate it, but I can't. I can't do it. And then before that, we had Critters 2. That was our Easter episode. That episode's fantastic. That features the all-star return of Granny Van Dam, who I think we've all three of us have decided is our favorite character we've come up with for the show so far. Mostly because it just boils down to an old lady pumping a shotgun and threatening you to take off your clothes. So yeah, that's all out. Next, we are doing a movie that is influenced by my Bunraku selection. It is called Franklin. And it's got Ryan Phillippe, Eva Green, and a few other people you might recognize. It is a weird fucking anthology film that features 2 grounded stories and 1 really high weird fantasy story, and they all converge at the end, and it's pretty fucking interesting, if I remember it correctly. So that should be coming out next week. That should be it as far as that goes. So I'll pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. That's our podcast every single week. I don't know what we're putting out this week actually, because we've banked a lot of stuff. But on Friday we put out sort of just me and Erik talking about Marvel stuff, just like us being excited because we didn't have anything else to record. So listen to that. We also talked about Game of Thrones a little bit, first 2 episodes, what we thought. Yeah, do we want to tell people what our plans in May are? Or
no, I'd say keep it a surprise.
A little bit. Okay. But let's just say there will be some things that are extra surprising coming up soon.
I don't know.
It'll be extraordinary.
Jesus Christ.
They could be uncanny.
Oh, Christ. Really, gentlemen?
They'd be astonishing.
Yeah.
They'll probably be pretty extreme.
No.
That's right, bub. Hey.
Anything else, Arlen?
Or in some versions of the animated show, you dingo.
If you don't know what we're talking about by now, that's good.
Or you have frontal lobe epilepsy. I'm Erik Fedorchak. I'm not even going to bother telling you anything that you need to follow me on or say anything horrible. Just go see Endgame in the theaters. Like, I know if you've listened to this, you've had everything ruined. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I knew about Cap using Mjolnir. I knew about him yelling Avengers Assemble. I knew about them making an Infinity Gauntlet. I knew about Professor Hulk.
I didn't
care. I didn't know Jack.
I didn't care. It was still amazing seeing it on the big screen. Go see it. It's a phenomenal movie.
All right.
Yep.
I have 15,000 plugs. So every Tuesday, Smallville Chronicles, we have 1 more episode and then we're finished with season 3. Then we actually get Lois Lane. That'll be this week. And Now Comics every Thursday on this channel. Every other Thursday-ish, a part of Lost Horror is And Now Legion of Tunes. We just watched the pilot for Eltingville. I know, too many podcasts. We just watched Eltingville. I started reading the comic. That is maybe
a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that is Eltingville may be the most hateful thing I've ever read about.
Yeah, Evan Dorkin is a mean guy. Yeah.
And yeah, so check that all out. Our next In Now Tunes thing is going to be that thing on Vincent Van Gogh.
Ooh.
Yes. The weird rotoscope thing.
Oh, the mystery detective one where it's like Vincent Van Gogh solving a crime.
Yes, where it's all the rotoscoping is done with actual painters.
Huh.
Yeah, we're trying to get out of the 2000s
bashy shit,
like geek stuff.
Yeah.
Huh. So he's just throwing ears at things. Okay, got it.
Yes. And don't forget to check out the next part of the MCU, Dark Phoenix. It's going to be released by Disney.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Is all of Fat for Fat?
Vet Snap, get rid of minions.
Oh, now I'm hurt.